incident that happened was this family that lived on the street where I was born, St. Patrick's Road, was they were quite poor, so they had a peculiar water system. Obviously, it was a very old cottage and very poor. I think it was a dirt floor. I'm not really sure. But anyway, nobody went in to see them or anything, because there was a common kind of interaction between all the neighbours. They used to go in, have a cup of tea and all that stuff and chat about. The local women would do that. But anyway, nobody went to see Mrs. Malone. But as it happened, during the night, the first night of the big freeze-up, everyone's tap froze. And they were all down the store the following day, in the corner shop, and they were saying, what are we going to do for water? We've got the walls. Because I don't know if they actually public pumped, and there was one way down a country road, but that was available. But I don't think that probably was frozen as well. But anyway, Mrs. Malone happened in on the conversation, and she announced that, well, thanks be to God, she said, my tap didn't freeze at all. Well, by God, did she have neighbours after that? So we all availed of her hospitality for the next 7 weeks, and it went on for a long time. And she was, she loved it. She really enjoyed it. She thought, no, I'm one of them, and all the rest of it. And the minute, of course, the thaw set in, she was abandoned one more time. So, anyway, that's the way things go. It's called Cold, Cold World. Oh, it's cold out there. Oh, it's cold out there. No, it's a cold, cold world. A cold, cold world. When Plassey froze over, the ice was like stone, and no one had water but Mrs. Malone. So we trooped to her gate with our buckets and cans. Suddenly she was our neighbour. Normally nobody darkened her door, because Mrs. Malone was poorer than poor. Jim was her husband and not a nice man. Theirs was the house with the water. There in the kitchen as the buckets filled up, we turned a blind eye to poverty's work. Now center stage, she was smiling, she was kind. Jim went to fume in the bedroom. She said the front door is open to all. So there's never a lock on that front door at all. Then it wasn't too long before people presumed to let themselves in without knocking. Oh, it's cold out there. Oh, it's cold out there. Oh, it's a cold, cold world. A cold, cold world. For weeks we dropped stones from the Black Bridge on high, but the ice never cracked a smile in reply. Still the tap in the kitchen kept spilling the gold. Mrs. Malone was the hostess. Jim drank his quota and he fumed a lot more. His dragon's breath hissed through the cracks in the door. While Mrs. Malone became queen of the road, started to dream in the process. Well, she dreamed Mrs. Murphy was coming to tea. That Jim held her hand as they walked by the sea. She dreamed she had money, and she dreamed she had hopes. She dreamed she could buy herself stockings. Then without warning the cold snap was done, and the ice started breaking with the sound of a gun. So we fixed all the leaks and we threw the buckets aside, went back to keeping our distance. Oh, it's cold out there. Oh, it's cold out there. And it's a cold, cold world. A cold, cold world. The procession over the silence returned. Her gentle entreaties were carelessly spurned, and all we her neighbours could think of to say was, Mrs. Malone, only for you. But she waited and waited, yeah, she waited in vain. And the beautiful dreams, they disappeared in the rain. Then one day Jim dropped his paper and he said, I'm glad we're rid of those fuckers. Oh, it's cold out there. Oh, it's cold out there. Oh, it's a cold, cold world. A cold, cold world. A cold, cold world. A cold